Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Professor Aisha Mayu here. In this video, I'm going to discuss how to write discussion section of an original research paper. Again, going through the topics or the content that were discussed in the previous videos that about telling about the essential component of a high quality original research manuscript, and using ICMJ guideline, equator reporting guidelines, how we can write the manuscript, apply effective strategies to enhance clarity, coherence, and scientific rigor in manuscript writing, and also to recognize the expectation of international editor and reviewer, and to develop practical skills in structuring abstract writing, compelling introduction, and crafting strong discussion section. So now we have reached the discussion section. We have already gone through the title, abstract, keyword, introduction, methods, results, and now this is the time for discussion. So again, structuring your manuscript is very important. All sections need to be coherent, in line with each other, in line with the objective, and in sequenced in such a way that they appear to be just like a story. Okay, this was again the structure of original research paper or the manuscript. Emerald format is used: introduction, method, results, and discussion. So now we are going to start with the discussion. Structure of discussion section. Start with the main finding of your study, not a repetition of the results, but a clear statement of what the results mean. Here you don't need to exactly copy paste the results, but you first of all, you can copy paste the main findings, but paraphrase those findings, the sentences of the findings, but not changing the findings. Actually, you are telling the meaning of those findings here, and then you will compare your findings or your results and the meaning of your results with existing literature. Do your results agree or contrast with previous studies? And these previous studies should not be older than 5 years. And now there is information overload, cognitive overload. There's a lot of research going on. So I prefer that last 3-year research is sufficient to inform or to inform your discussion. You can get existing a good volume of existing literature of last 3 years for the contrast as well as agreement. So explain now once, for example, I start with one key finding. I wrote compared that finding with the contrasting and similar literature supporting my finding, or contrasting with my findings, and then I explain why. This provides possible reasons for your finding, and here comes the input of the researcher. Discussion is the section where the researcher interprets the things. Researcher give reasoning for the why, for the difference, or for the agreement. If there is agreement with the literature, major findings in the literature supports your finding, and then why was that so, and if there is a difference or discrepancy with the existing literature, and there are few studies supporting your discrepancy, then why is that so? So here you explain the why. Highlight your strengths first. Then till now, in these 3 points, you have covered each and every key finding of your research. Then you write down the highlights of or the strengths of your study. What makes your study reliable or unique? This will be the second last paragraph of the discussion. So initial 2-3 paragraphs will involve all your key findings and their discussion with the similar conflicting literature, in light of the similar and conflicting literature, followed by the explanations, and then comes the ending of the discussion, where you give the strengths of your study, why your study was reliable and unique. Then you give the limitation of your study or the weaknesses, you can say. You are acknowledging your limitations. Be honest, but don't undermine the study. Don't accept something that was not there. For example, I found many papers stating that the sample size was inadequate, while in the method section, the sample size was adequately calculated, properly calculated using a specific standardized formula format. But they were mentioning this thing in the limitation, and this could actually undermine the strengths of the study. So be careful while reporting the limitations. If being a single-centered study can be one of the limitations, multi-center study can be more important, or can give a generalizability in your findings. But that was again, the feasibility hinders, and the limitation involves the budgetary limitations as well, financial limitations as well. Discuss implications. Then comes the last paragraph, in which you discuss implications, the clinical implications, educational implication, policy implications, or research implications. In clinical, sometime I call it practice implications. So practice, policy, and research implications, they are all very important. Suggest future direction. What should be studied next? This is for the newcomers or the young researchers in your field who can find the gap over here, the gap you are leaving for others. This limitation, actually, you are telling the gap of your study, the research gap your study is leaving, the gap your study filled, that is mentioned at the end of the method section. Um, Sorry, at the end of the introduction section, you mention the rationale, and you tell about the gap in the existing literature which your study is filled. Now, here in the limitation and future direction, you are mentioning the gap you are leaving behind. So this is very important for the researchers. Now in the conclusion of the discussion section, you provide a take-home message in 2-3 sentences, and then you move on to a separate conclusion section. The style and tone of discussion: write in past tense for findings, present tense for interpretation and implication. So this is important. Uh, but with practice, you can learn. Past tense for finding, present tense for interpretation and implication. Avoid overstatements, don't claim causation if the design was cross-sectional, and avoid repetition of results tables and in tables and figures. Use balanced language, acknowledge limitations while emphasizing contribution. Be critical but constructive, show awareness of the context. Another thing, here you apply the inverted triangle approach. Start broad, place your findings in the context of big picture, narrow them down, highlight your study's contribution, and narrowest, give a crisp conclusion with future scope. So the discussion is an inverted triangle format, and starting broad, narrowing it down, and the end, the last paragraph or the last lines, they are the conclusion. Link back to objectives. This is very important. Explicitly show how your study answered the research question, or partly answered maybe the research question. So starting the discussion, you have to link with the objective. Start with linking with the objective, or maybe the research question. Balance positive and negative findings. This is again important. You need to have a complete literature map of last 3 years or maybe 5 years, where you should not pick and choose studies. You should give a balanced finding, a balanced positive and negative findings in of your study, as well as the literature you are citing. Don't only highlight supportive findings, discuss unexpected or contradictory results as well, because this is also a finding. Use subheadings if allowed. Example: principal findings, comparison with literature, strengths and limitation, implication and conclusion. This is these could be the subheadings, but if it is allowed, in author guidelines of that specific journal. Critical thinking, storytelling, move beyond description. This is something that is usually we don't see in discussions. The people, researchers, especially the young researchers, they just forget uh, critically evaluating or thinking about reading in between the lines and giving meaning to their interpretation. Move beyond description, explain mechanism, patterns, and relevance, and always try to be considering the context, try to consider the context as well. Weak versus strong discussion sentence. For example, this is a sentence, how we can improve it. Our study found that 45% of participants were obese, which is similar to other studies. Okay, strong could be, our study found that 45% of participants were obese, a prevalence consistent with previous findings in South Asia, Khan et al. 2020 and Singh et al. 2021. So when you say previous findings, it means you are quoting at least two or more than two studies. This is a common mistake that you say multiple studies showed this, and just write one citation. So this is an obvious mistake. So when you start here, we have, I'm sure I have shown two studies, so that is enough. This similarity suggests that the rising trend of obesity in urban Pakistan reflects regional lifestyle changes, particularly dietary transitions and reduced physical activity. So these, because these findings were similar, so I am giving the reasoning for the similar findings. So here the reasoning is lacking, and even the references, citations are lacking. So add citation with each similar and conflicting literature, but here I am just talking about the similar literature. Same kind of paragraph I can write with the conflicting literature. So one finding can have a whole full paragraph, including similar finding, then reasoning, then dissimilar finding, and reasoning in that way. Okay. Before writing or revising the discussion, ask yourself, did I start with the main finding? Did I compare with past studies, both similarity and differences? Did I explain possible reasons for my findings? Did I clearly address strengths and limitations of my findings? Did I mention the implication, practice, policy, and research? Did I propose future directions? Did I give a clear concluding statement? So this is the checklist. Writing the conclusion. Do put your study into context, identify key findings and application, but don't mention figures and numbers, percentages over here. Describe how it represents an advance in the field, suggest future experiment, the implication or suggestions for the future researchers. In the conclusion, you can write the recommendations. Actually, conclusion includes the recommendations. And you have to avoid repetition with other section. Don't repeat the conclusion mentioned in the abstract section. Paraphrase it and elaborate it. Here you need a crisp but sufficient conclusion. Being overly speculative should be avoided. Don't overemphasize the impact of your study. So acknowledge everyone who has helped. That can, everyone who is not part of the authorship can be acknowledged. References, usually journal allow 25 to 30 references and must be 80% or preferably all from last 5 years. But if historical evidence needed, then you can justify that. You can have references from the past as well, but preferably last 3 years are sufficient to give you 50% or more references. So cite current and key pertinent references. Reference citation must be accurate and complete. Correct reference style. Keep an organized bibliography library. Use EndNote, Mendeley, Zotero, whatever you want, but use a reference manager. Avoid personal communication, unpublished observations, and submitted manuscript not yet accepted. You should not use them. You should not cite them because they are not available to be verified. Citing articles published only in the local language, again, this should not be done because English translation should be available. Excessive self-citation and journal self-citation is again must be avoided. According to need, you can self-cite, you can cite the journals, self-citation can be done, but not excessive. Supplementary material. There is sufficient space there and supplementary material can be attached, like a lot of tables that are not cannot be placed within the text. They can be attached. Even your questionnaire, your SPSS file, whatever you want to share with the readers and the editors, you can upload. So table, figures, and captions. The table should stand alone. There should be a caption, and I have already discussed in figures. The pixel, the illustration concept or method, the images, graphs or diagrams, they all comes under figured, but they should be of high resolution figures. And the ULE resolutions are mentioned in the author guidelines, and they all must stand alone. I have explained what we mean by stand alone. Figures, high resolution, neat, legible, labels, simple, clearly formatted, indicate error if there is any error in the picture, and the captions must be detailed. And you can insert arrow where you want to, or pointer where you want to emphasize or show the change, for example, in histopathology slides or something like that. Ethics in scientific writing, very important. Authorship issues, informed consent, IRB approval, acknowledgement of past and present contributions of others, registering the clinical trials, acknowledging the grant or funding received, and avoid duplicate publications. These are few important ethical aspects. Avoid plagiarism as taking any idea from other person's idea, research, or any important intellectual contribution of another person which you cite with which you include in your manuscript without acknowledging or giving proper uh, acknowledgement and due citation of that person. So conflict of interest, there may be conflict of interest, so you need to disclose it. Don't avoid disclosing conflict of interest. Author contribution is important. These are the 4 areas where the contribution must be made. Substantial contribution in 3 areas, either in the designing and conceptualization, or the acquisition analysis, and third one is the interpretation of the data. Any one of these 3. And all 4 are compulsory: drafting and revising by all authors, final approval by all authors, accountability by all authors. Cover letter component, you can use chat gpt or any AI tool to design your cover letter, but you should know that the cover letter should have an address to the journal editor, title, author list, and journal name. Give the background to the research, rationale or significance of your research, importance of your research for the readership of the journal, and importance of your research for because it's coming from a lower middle income country, from Pakistan or any such country. You can say why this part of the world, these findings from this part of the world are important for the global readership to know about that. Confirm the originality of the submission. Confirm that there are no competing financial interests, and the corresponding address, corresponding person. And you can also talk about the taking the accountability is also the responsibility of the corresponding author, but all authors, they have read and approved the manuscript. You have to mention that. Summary is honesty and sincerity with research work. Say no to plagiarism. Revise, 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 and ask others to give a critical review. Read author's guideline very carefully, get it printed, highlighted, and you will soon learn. Like I have published so much in BMC, Biomedical Central Group of Journals, that I know each and every sentence of those author guidelines. So it's very easier for me to publish in any journal of BMC group. So don't leave hope if rejected. Always try to publish with open access journals, because that information is available to everyone. So multiple time there is rejection. There is my separate video will be coming on how to get published. So publication detail is mentioned in another video, upcoming video, inshallah. So thank you very much. Any questions or any comments, please write in the comment box, and do subscribe and like my channel. Thank you.